Congratulations on making it to perhaps the most obscure place on the internet, the official Discordance YouTube page. Your reward, besides Discordance's first single, I Love Kanye, is music videos on the radio, a podcast devoted to an expired, irrelevant method of marketing music to impressionable teenagers. Join myself, Alex, as I try not to mumble, and my co host, Giovanni, as he tries to avoid going on 20-minute tangents about Italian filmmakers. Over the course of the coming years, Giovanni and I will also occasionally put some effort into discussing the merits of music videos, such as whether they add or subtract to the song, the pros and cons of diegetic sound, and whether they needed fewer or more semi nude women in them. However, we will put no effort into researching the background information. So that's why we're starting with a few bands that very few people have written about. Today we're covering the Beatles, the Beach Boys, and the Animals. Giovanni, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are
That's
you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing absolutely fantastic here myself. I'm wondering, are you concerned in the slightest of about our complete lack of experience with improv?
Not at all.
Okay,
If
correct.
if you needed training to improv, that'd defeat the point of it.
I'm gonna think on that. I can't say I entirely agree. Um, but that's fine. I'm taking that. I'm putting that aside. I'm taking the fact that usually when we get into conversations, other people tend to leave the room. I'm taking that and I'm putting that aside too. Um,
Yeah, reasonable.
yeah, you kind of have to do that. Because I'm thinking right now it's just us, and if other people stumble upon this, that's a treat for them. So
Yeah, these are the gems they wanna mine it for, the pauses.
yeah,
But I'll take over for a bit then.
okay.
Today, for our first episode, we fortunately have 3 good songs. Are the music videos good? That we'll find out, but at the very least, the songs themselves are solid.
This is true.
So that is a treat in and of itself.
Yeah, I'll hit
Um,
us with the summary. We want a summary of the first video.
yes, so the first video, which you claim is the first music video proper. Uh,
Yeah,
yep.
it's not in
I didn't
writing, so
check
I
that at all.
no, I didn't check that either. But I kind of inferred that much from. So I did actually read the Wikipedia article on music videos. That's the most research I'll do. But
Okay.
basically, it said that other videos that came later were the first, and then I found this one. So I was like, well, then they must be wrong. This one's clearly the first. Um, and what happens in it, I'll set the scene. It's the House of the Rising Sun by the Animals, and in this video, a man obliquely describes his struggles with a sex addiction. Well, in a way only a true man can achieve. His friend struggles not to laugh at him, and that's basically the extent of the video. Um,
Uh, that is true. Uh, there is, in addition to that very ill-timed laugh, there's another detail. I'm not sure I should bring it up now or save it for later, but
yeah,
since
sure, drop it now.
okay, did you notice that the keyboard somehow moves
Mhm.
over the course of the
Whoa,
video?
what?
At at the
That's
start,
really
the keyboardist is next to the drummer,
yeah.
and at the end, they are quite a ways away, and I actually do not know how they moved the keyboard,
I think he might have picked it up and moved it.
but he's playing it the whole time.
Oh, okay. I see what's going on right now. I think okay, yeah, and this is important for some of our listeners too, probably, just in case they don't know how music videos work. Uh, Generally, what happens is they record the music beforehand, and then they just pretend to play it. So in the video, so they can actually do things like stand up and move around, and the sound will keep coming out even though they're not playing it. That's just
I'm
that's a little tidbit.
That's the tidbit.
Yeah.
I think they I was I mean, I did very little background research into this myself, but I was
Yeah.
under the impression this was taken from them actually doing it live somewhere. The guy keeps looking at the camera awkwardly and things like that. You
Yeah,
think with multiple takes could have edited that out.
that's I think where your assumption is going wrong, that they've done multiple takes of this. Um, because I was initially led to the belief that this was pre-recorded based on the fact that there is no microphone to be seen, and I'm
That
not sure if
is
the instruments are plugged in. Uh, that's those are generally the giveaways. Um,
Those are some good ones.
Yeah, I
So
believe
you
I
can
believe none
you
of the
can see.
instruments are plugged in. So it's good that we're getting these learning moments out of the way early on in our podcasting lives. But
Yeah. Uh,
that's, I think, a crucial giveaway that see, and here was what I thought um was the weakest part of the video. I think there are two interesting parts. There's the directing, and then there's the performance. And I think the performance kind of kills it for me. Um, the singer is see, maybe this is going to be uh, lost on you if you were completely believed into thinking that they were actually performing. But this, I found the singer he's barely moving his mouth. So unless he's like capable of really letting out these bellowing hollers and hoots without actually opening his mouth, that would be really impressive. But I don't think it's
yeah,
the
that's what
case.
I was impressed by. I was like, "Whew, I thought this man would look a bit more emotional as he's shouting." But
No, no, he just has to barely creak open his mouth, and then like a holler from the mountaintops comes out. That sort of took me out of it. And then as as the music video, the directing is interesting. Maybe we should just talk about that first. Um, what did you think of the directing?
it's it's nothing too exceptional, but it's certainly not terrible either. Like they pan over, there's a pan.
Yes.
That's always something.
Yeah, and this is the also the source of your favorite meme of all time, right?
Uh, yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, it
Okay,
is.
get that improv skills working, right? So this is Giovanni. As we were preparing for this podcast, Giovanni was like, "Oh yeah, I know this song. That's that meme I sent you about it." And then as we look for that meme in our messages, it turns out that about 3 years ago, Giovanni sent me this meme, which somehow still occupies a space in his brain. I'll describe the meme over audio format because obviously that's gonna work. Someone says there is no house in New Orleans, and then as the long pan that begins this song occurs, we wait, and then it pans over to the singer of the Animals who says there is a house in New Orleans. Um, and then that's the spit take. Anyway, yeah. So the directing, I think it's all right, but I think for how simple it is, they kind of get, for the most part, the tone of the song bang on because it's again, I could probably do more research, but I think the song. What do we think it's about? I thought it was something about like just the House of the Rising Sun was a brothel, I think. And so I'm not sure if this was originally sung by a woman, which I think would make more sense if you're like stuck economically speaking, financially speaking, working at a brothel.
Uh,
That would make more sense rather than like
this
a
is
patron who's just stuck there.
this is the bit of research that I did.
Okay, tell us.
Yes, this is a folk song that dates from. They don't know exactly. They think it might even be from the 1600s.
Okay.
Uh, Quite ancient. Um, and yes, originally it is about a woman, and they changed it from to son.
Okay. See, then that's why it makes less sense then, because like
Yes,
then yeah.
and if you hear, Bob Dylan actually does a version of this also, even
Okay.
before they did, and he didn't change that. Um,
Okay. So he got it. He must have done that in falsetto and like pitched up his voice a bit.
he did not. So,
Okay. That's
pros and cons to each version.
yeah. Okay, that's fair. So either way, it's kind of, even if the gender swapped version makes a little less sense, it's still a pretty morbid song about being stuck somewhere. Uh, and I thought the directing was pretty good in evoking that. In that the way they sort of walk around, him and the bassist and guitarist, it kind of gives the feel of like a funeral procession or something of that manner. Did you get that impression?
Um, I suppose it could. I kind of just thought they needed something to do, so they had them walk around.
Okay.
I have to say I was not hugely impressed by this music video. I think it's become more popular because the song itself is good rather than
Yeah.
the anything that's visually going on.
Okay.
I have to say I was I was quite distracted by the mise en scène, I suppose,
Yeah.
of the the actors themselves.
Oh, okay.
And specifically the drummer is chewing gum the whole time.
Well, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
which I found that kind of clashing tonally. And then the guitarist, he has many strange facial quirks. There is of course his really strange smile towards the end where he it's like he remembers a good old joke or something,
Yeah.
and the guy in front of him is being pretty emotional at that point, and he just can't keep it together.
No, that significantly undercuts it. So I think to go with the directing element again, I think the organ is like the most somber of instruments. I think that's like what you play at funerals and like weddings, I guess. I don't know why both of those would seem somber, but that's like the very like this is an emotional important moment type instrument. So I think they're them forefronting that at the end it's about like them where they as they pan around the organ player appears at the front rather than at the back by the drummer where he was before. And I think that maybe that's what they were going for, or they just needed to do some have some action on the set. But I think as the organ player was moving his instrument, that's what really cracked the guitarist up. And yeah, as you say, it arrives at the climax of the song, um, which is really quite unfortunate. Um, any other guitarist quirks worth mentioning? I thought he does a lot of like peacock maneuvering with his head, which I thought, but then the singer also does that. So maybe that's just something they did in the '60s. I don't know.
Well, he yeah, the guitarist keeps staring at the different cameras. Like it's almost like or he's clearly not aware of which one they're actually filming him with because he keeps looking around to the various different ones, and they often cut to the one that he is staring at, but
Yeah,
sometimes they don't.
yeah,
And that's kind of distracting. The bass player, he's I don't know, I guess he's not as ridiculous,
he's cool.
but
I'll say as a bass player myself, I'm sure I'm never going to mention this again, but I do play bass, and he's using a thumb pick, which is like this pick that curls. It's like a circle, and you just put your thumb through it, like a ring, sort of. And then it has like a pointy edge that still comes off of it. And I think no one uses them anymore, but it's it's something that you kind of that's the sort of thing that you have to focus on when the video consists of mainly people just walking around. Um,
yeah. The other quirk that I think is quite distracting is how the vocalist, he keeps his arms so stiffly by his side for the whole time. And it's not until the end when the camera zooms out that you can see he's patting on his leg to keep time.
yeah,
Um,
that's well, it's
and
another thing that's mandated by the '60s. You have to do something like that.
so prior to that, this stiff walking is just seems kind of unnatural.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I have to say, I think the popularity of this is due to the song being good, and maybe there's a factor of novelty, like, whoa, the band's actually here playing it,
yeah,
and their keyboard tell.
yeah. That is really impressive to some of us for sure.
Um, yeah, so
Yeah,
I think that about sums up the video aspect of the House of
yeah.
the Rising Sun.
So my
Um,
I guess my parting question is it good that this type of video is gone? The just sort of walking around and playing. Or is it possible that this format could be salvaged by performers who are more used to playing on camera?
uh, yeah, I think it's the latter.
Okay.
Um, because they do seem about as nervous as like
We are
high
right now?
schoolers who haven't prepared
Okay.
for a group presentation.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, that kind of
Well,
is,
except for the drummer. He's as cool as it can be. You know, he's just chomping away at his gum and just keeping the beat. But yeah.
yeah, maybe the drummer should have been a bit more nervous, um, and realized, oh, maybe I shouldn't be chewing gum.
Well, um,
Uh,
yeah.
what else is there to say?
I was
Probably the
thinking
lighting
the
should
lighting.
be mentioned. Yeah,
Okay.
they it would probably fit the mood better if they had been more deliberate with how they were casting shadows. I mean,
That's fair.
this is you can see they've got shadows going off in every which direction. They are just clearly in a studio somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I think they're really testing the bounds of the set too, because as they walk sort of through that faux arch, for the final sequence, you can see the ground is like concrete. It's like gray rather than the yellow that they were standing on before. So I think that the set might be about as big as a small washroom or something like that. So they were clearly operating on a budget, and I think a bigger budget is what probably would kill this type of music video, because now I think you would go on set somewhere. You would, like, maybe it would be too heavy-handed to go to, like, try and, like, set this in an actual brothel, or like in a at a train station or something like that. But I feel like they would shoot on location somewhere and then intersperse that with, you know, brief clips of something unrelated to kind of keep that energy up, you know.
Yeah. Well, they definitely could not shoot it in a brothel as they changed the narrator to be male. Um,
But I thought this is
and
someone who goes to a brothel.
I thought it was someone who goes into debt from having a gambling problem. They
Oh
look
yeah,
after their father,
yeah, oh
and
true.
and uh, so they're an alcoholic and a gambler.
Okay, I think I ran with the idea that the House of the Rising Sun was a brothel, and sort of impose that on the rest of the song. But yeah, okay, that's, or then in that case a casino or something like that. They would be moving through like a casino with no one paying attention to them or something like that. That's how you would do this nowadays, I think, or in the 80s. Um, yeah. So I guess now we can move on to our ratings for this video. Um, the way
Okay,
we're gonna be, yeah,
uh, so I guess we should introduce our
yeah,
rating scale,
yeah.
um, which I guess I can do.
Hmm.
We've got Cool. One sec. We've got
Smooth.
out of 5. This is revolutionary, guys. Hold
Okay.
on here. This is gonna blow your mind. We've got it out of 5, 1 to 5, no 0. Keep that in mind.
No zero.
No 0. The lowest, 1. Would this is something where it is terrible, and you wish you had never laid your eyes on it.
Yes, I'm
Uh,
thinking of this as something like, even if you're a fan of the band, you might want to, even if it's not a good video, you might want to see it just to be like, okay, I know, at least I got some bit of extra information out of, about the song. I've seen it in a slightly different new light, even if it wasn't a good experience on the whole. I've at least gained something. Where you wish you'd never seen it is like, it's either mentally scarring in some way, or it's the equivalent of like watching paint dry, where it adds absolutely nothing. Sorry to interrupt.
that's fine. A 2 out of 5 would be, it didn't, like, hugely ruin the song, but it certainly didn't really add anything. You you wouldn't recommend that someone watch the video,
Hmm.
say, just listen to the song.
Hmm.
3, neutral. Like, yeah, you can either just listen to the song or watch the video. It doesn't really take or add away from either. 4 would be rather good. You think, yeah, you should watch the song with this. This certainly adds something. And then 5 out of 5 would be definitely, definitely watch this music video. Even if you don't like the band or the song in general, you should still see the video.
And I think I'm gonna hit this one with a. This might this might be a bit surprising. I think I'm gonna go with just neutral on this one.
Okay.
I I,
I'm
I
gonna
found I found the color palette too pleasing visually. I'm not sure if we didn't talk about that, but I believe the matching shirts they're wearing is yellow, the same yellow as the set, which I find highly pleasing. Um, in addition to
okay.
the interesting blocking, I thought that is something. Um, I think I'm talking myself out of it. Is that really something worth seeing? Some interesting blocking? Oof. Uh,
I Yeah, I the blocking is not that interesting. Like this is not Citizen Kane here.
I mean, they really fooled you with the with that organ player moving. That was, that was pretty impressive. I guess what are
Yeah.
you going with? Two, I imagine?
I'm going with 2. I think this certainly doesn't ruin the song, completely anyways. I do find it distracting though, the number of things that we mentioned, gum chewing, cracking up,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
that I enjoy the song more without the video. So I
Okay.
don't think I can
I
give this a
think
neutral rating.
okay, I've talked myself back into it. I think I'm going back to the three. Um just because the little like mariachi band, okay, that's just gonna make it sound even worse. But like the walking around I think is cool. The bassist, I like it's just too pleasing. The bassist is taller than the guitarist, who's taller than the singer. And of course they're walking around with tallest in the back. It's very visually pleasing. Um and so I
And
have
then
to say I did actually enjoy it.
the synchronized bow at the end, did that
This
add?
the synchronized, yeah, that's another. This is the '60s moment, but that's fine. Um, there's actually one other thing that I wanted to say about this, and that is the animals. I believe their image at the time was of being kind of raucous and a little zany. That's I think where their name came from, and most of their and by a little zany I mean like '60s level of um like a little zany slash out there, socially speaking. We'll get to drugs later, but like in terms of just social norms, like being a little too overt when you're talking about doing the sex or something like that, that's what's considered raucous. And I think that's sort of what their image was, even though a lot of their lyrics were like you said I love you too. The day you said you'd be mine, well, I felt so fine. Like that's the extent of their lyrics basically. But I think it was supposed to be a little raucous for the time.
Okay.
And and I'm thinking this is all gonna tie back in together, don't worry. Do you think that would you agree that it's the case that for a lot of artists, when they do something that's slightly out of their image, people expect them to do a wink and a nod to it? Like if Weezer did like a 10-minute prog song, you'd expect them at some point in the song to make some sort of lyrical reference, or in the music video, make some sort of visual reference to how long the song is, how weird it is that they're doing something that's like sounds serious.
Um, well, I'd expect Weezer to do it, but I'm not sure if that's more of a Weezer thing to do or an artist in
Okay,
general
maybe
thing to
bad
do.
example, but like, isn't it, don't you think that people generally expect artists to do something that kind of
Uh,
breaks the fourth wall when they do something that's out of their character, sort of?
um, yeah, I'm not sure how much fourth wall breaking was commonplace in the 60s as someone who was not alive then.
Well, I'm
Um,
just I'm just saying even now, like
oh,
if
now certainly.
if someone does something that's out of character, like a little out of their image, out of character, um, it would seem like we would expect them to make some sort of reference to that, you know?
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't be it would be less out of place for them to make a reference to
Yeah.
them doing something out of place than to just do something out of place.
Yes, fantastically put. And I think that's what this video might indicate is that that is a danger because say that this guitarist was having a little and the drummer's chewing gum because he's like a bad boy or whatever, and the guitarist is having a chuckle because he sees that, you know, that really no one's gonna believe that the animals are doing this silly song when they have a very different like stage persona, or they're doing this serious song when they have a different stage persona. So we'll do a little laugh, a little chuckle, and then whoops, turns out that 60 years later, you're only known for this one song you did, and everyone knows you as that band that did that like serious song about gambling apparently. And now your cheeky reference at you know the ooh look what we're doing type reference is now ruining the aesthetic of the song,
Ah,
you know?
I see. I see
Yeah.
where you're going with this, or where
Well,
you've arrived at
we've
anyways.
arrived. Yeah, that was that 10-minute tangent has arrived at a
Yeah,
conclusion.
and I think the platform you've landed at is the correct one too,
Okay.
because that does make sense. As yes, as someone who, unlike you, I have not listened to an album by the Animals,
Hmm.
so I do not know what their regular image would be. I've just heard this song before because it is famous.
Yeah.
Um, and so yes, if it is true that they were known for doing tunes that are a bit more lighthearted,
Hmm.
then yes, I can see exactly where you're coming from.
Okay.
And yeah, I we agree, I believe.
We agree. Okay, that's great. If there's any disagreement on this podcast, we're gonna have to call it quits at some point, I think. Um, should we move on then? The Beach Boys.
Um, yes, I think we have wrung this one dry.
Okay. Well, ooh, timely reference, wringing things dry.
Yes.
Because this next video depicts a group of man children who are grounded and told that they can't go to the beach today. And so instead, they jump around in their suburban, abnormally large pool.
Uh, yes. And don't forget they also play chess with themselves as the characters, the
Oh,
pieces.
true. That I didn't realize that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
Um, that's, I guess, well, they would all have to be
They'd all be knights, I
bishops.
suppose.
Bishops, right?
Well, they're moving in L shapes more or less.
I thought, okay. Okay, we already have a severe disagreement here. I thought that they were moving diagonally from one tile to its adjacent diagonal tile. Okay, well, let's just leave that at that. Um,
Yeah, I'm not sure it matters too much. Um, that is certainly so. Yes, I have things to say about this one also.
good.
So, um, for starters, this might be a recurring issue, at least a recurring issue that I have, which is that one of bitrate and compression.
Okay,
Um,
it's getting
when
technical.
normally, so normally when you listen to a song on CD or vinyl, not to sound like too much of a hipster,
Mm,
the audio file is not even a file. It's uncompressed.
yeah.
Um, and so it is exactly as intended is how you hear it,
Mm,
limited by your speakers. Listening to listening to something through streaming
mm,
on YouTube in this instance,
mm,
um, and it is compressed, but it's generally not too bad. But then when you then get a video where the maximum audio qual or the maximum video quality is 480p.
mhm.
I don't know if you know this, but the bitrate does scale with the resolution in YouTube videos, so it is quite noticeably a lower audio quality. And for a single off of Pet Sounds, which
Yeah.
is a famously lush album,
Yes.
that is quite frustrating. So that
Okay.
is already a hurdle that the song is has to overcome, that it has imposed upon itself.
You know what? I thought the song sounded great, so I would not have noticed that.
Okay.
But that's
Uh,
so wait, is that are you saying that the let's laymanify this, just for the whoever might be listening. You're saying that the number of P's in a video is related to how good the song sounds.
yes, basically.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, you get it is more compressed when you listen to it.
Okay. Well, this is a fascinating start to the discussion of this video because I was actually struggling to really say anything about this video. So I'm glad we've got to the technical stuff already, but I mean, I think this is another issue of tone. Um, because basically the video is just visual gags abound. Um,
Well, I have something to say about that also. So,
okay, well, yeah. Let's get into the visual gags.
okay, so um, I've seen music videos in my day,
Yep.
and not to generalize too much, but there seems to be two major categories, or let's say three major categories, two of which are relevant here
Mhm.
that they usually fall into. Um, Number one is the video tries to match the tone of the song visually
Yeah.
with how it's directed and so on. Um, Number two is the video tries to match the lyrics literally,
Mm-hmm.
and then number three would be when it seems like they're just completely disconnected from each other.
Yeah.
Um, so here, there's a bizarre mishmash of uh, of sometimes attempting to literally enact the lyrics, such as when in the first verse when he talks about having a drink and then getting into a fight,
Yeah.
and the guy comes out with some booze, and then the next guy comes out and they start to fight,
Yep.
and then it cuts to them just in unison moving down their like backyard patio, and
Yeah.
that is just completely I
Moving
mean that is
down in a knight as a knight might move across the chessboard, right?
yes,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
and that is, I mean, that is arguably in either the category of matching tone or being irrelevant, because this song, Sloop John B, is probably the most lighthearted and whimsical on Pet Sounds.
Okay.
Um, it's fairly humorous in tone, so them just doing some kind of visual gag is humorous also in tone, but it's not like a great match.
Yeah. Okay. See, here's maybe where my divergence from the typical interpretation of the song is going to lead me to diverge from your interpretation of the video. And that is, for some reason, I find this song incredibly sad. Um, Lyrically,
Really?
what I take from it is someone's complaining about their time aboard a ship, right? Someone
Yeah.
ate his grits or something, or whatever, and he has coal in his face and can't shower or whatever. And
They
then he
also ate his
sings,
corn.
sorry?
They also ate his corn.
Oh, they ate his corn too. See, this is, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
it's a bad trip. Um, but maybe it's just the arrangement of it and the way it's performed vocally. But lines like, "Why won't they let me go home?" I find to be like very emotionally impactful. Like that's that sort of sentence is like heavy, you know? Like why not only they like, not knowing why someone won't let you go free somewhere is like a pretty, when you think about it literally and removed from the context of this being a silly sailor song, is a pretty like concerning question to have. Does that make sense?
Yes, I suppose. I just I don't think that's what the video is or the song.
But certainly not what the
Let's stick
video
with the
is.
song.
Yeah.
That's the thing with the song. I don't think that's what the song is going for. I mean, Pet Sounds has uh, some more serious and soulful songs on it, to be sure, like God
Yeah.
Only Knows Where I'd Be Without You and Caroline Why and so
Yeah.
on. But I always thought this was their more lighter patch.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
And I mean, not to have done too much research here,
yeah.
but
Oh
this
no.
song, this is also a folk song
Mhm.
originally.
Mhm.
Um, from I think it was from the Caribbean. I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
Um, and they actually did change some of the lyrics though. Minor
Okay.
changes. Minor change number one. He says like he properly conjugated the word break, which uh, originally was not properly conjugated. He thought that would be confusing to his, I suppose, very middle class American
Yeah.
audience.
If you
Um,
don't have a if you don't have your own pool and you don't live in the suburbs, then this song is not for you. Pet Sounds is not for
and
you.
and then the other change is when he says this is the worst trip I've ever been on. Originally, it's this is the worst trip since I was born.
Yeah.
And so he changed that and possible allusion to LSD.
Yes, definitely a possible illusion. So, I guess, yeah, you have your goofy drug reference. You have like, what's the humor supposed to come from this song? Just that it's someone complaining?
Yeah, it's like they went on a trip that should have been fun, and it just kind of went badly in silly ways, kind of exaggerated ways,
Okay.
and I mean I know this is probably something that we would a bridge we'd have to cross eventually, but Alex does hate comedy, um, and, and so that might be
You
an
just weren't
issue here.
expecting it to be the very first episode in the second song, but
No,
here we are, we've arrived at this moment. Okay, but then why won't they let him go home? What's wrong? Why can't
I think it's because it's juvenile, and he's like a child who's on like a boating trip, and they're scheduled to
well,
be out there for some amount of time.
you shouldn't give this juvenile, childlike person the vocals of the Beach Boys and the arrangements of Brian Wilson and give him that much pathos that he ends up being a sympathetic character because they just won't let him go home. So that's the Beach Boys' mistake, honestly. They should have arranged it less beautifully, and maybe it would have fit their video better. Um,
Yeah, that it might have. Um, but yes, that is something else probably worth getting to, which is um the Beach Boys.
yeah.
Famous band, famously one of the greatest rock bands ever, or at
Hmm.
least one of the greatest pop bands ever.
Yeah.
Um, famous for well their vocal harmonies and Brian Wilson's arrangements.
Mm.
Um, not so famous for their lyrical depth, if I may
Mm.
be so bold.
Okay.
Um, and I mean there are a few songs on Pet Sounds where the lyrics are a more famous part of them,
Hmm.
like God Only Knows,
Yeah.
and I Know There's an Answer, but
Yeah.
this one not so much. I
No.
also they didn't write these lyrics,
Yeah.
but some of the other ones also not so much. And on some of their other albums, because this is a band I've listened to a handful of their albums.
Okay.
Uh, the lyrics are frequently the weak point on with the Beach Boys.
Okay.
Um,
Are you thinking of, have you listened to their 1980s resurgence hit, Kokomo or whatever that one is called?
I have heard that
Yeah,
song.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, once you hear Mike Love saying "Come on, pretty mama," you can't really unhear it. So
Yeah.
it's a one time heard, forever remembered type situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've listened to more of the Beach Boys from their
Their heyday.
around Pet Sounds
Yeah.
from when they were doing remarkable music.
Yeah. So I guess we can ask, maybe this is too slanted in my own from my own angle, but comedic music videos, gag comedy, physical comedy, do they work in the music video format?
I think they can. I just don't. I think this is just not a very good example of one.
What's wrong with this one?
Um,
Because you said that at one point there is like a literal, they literally reenact this song, but for most of it it's
yeah.
like they, someone gets locked out of a fence. Mike Love gets locked out of the fence. Someone probably did that on purpose. uh they take a
It's
they
actually even more ridiculous. He doesn't get locked out of the fence. He
eh,
closes it so that he can climb over it.
yes. And they
Uh,
they walk and they submerge themselves in a pool, which was comedically not revealed by the camera and that sort of thing.
I think these. I mean, I think the visual gags here, with the exception of when he says we got drunk and then we fought, I mean, they're visual gags and they are lighthearted, but
Mhm.
the gags are not really related to the song, other than being in a pool.
Yeah.
And it is perhaps there are different ways that something can be lighthearted because I feel that there is a disconnect here. Even
Yeah.
if I maybe the disconnect is that the this just has looks like a home video.
It
And
yeah. We were gonna get to that at some point, but it's basically a home video.
and the Beach Boys, they're certainly not a garage rock band.
No.
And so the home video tone is just does not match the Beach Boys tone.
Yeah. That's that's fair. I want to say also, it feels just like compared to recent music, most comedic music nowadays either feels um like some sort of Weird Al parody where it's like a running joke. You know what I mean? Where like
Yeah.
Amish Paradise, where it's like the whole video is about being Amish, being Amish.
Yeah.
Sort of spoil that video. I knew we were gonna get to it at some point. But that's what the
We'll
video's
return
about.
to that at some point probably. That's a good video though. That is
Yeah,
one where the tone of the video perfectly matches
yes.
the tone of the song.
And just the visuals really too, right? Like it's a visual of Amish life. This is not a visual of someone going on a trip. It's a visual of like however many five guys who are way too old to be playing around in a pool.
Yes,
So
that is another part of the Beach Boys look that has always just confused me. One of their earlier albums, they're all wearing these awful sweaters on them,
yeah,
and they just they look like they're grown men and they're dressed like children.
yes,
And
yeah.
I don't know who was in charge of their wardrobe, but they should have fired them.
I've considered this in greater detail. Like Mike Love looks like he's always 20 years older than the rest of them. I think their guitarist, I think his name is like Al Jardine or something. He's already balding basically at this point. Brian Wilson's chunkiness really, and just overall mannerisms and tone really prevents him from being like a cool surfs up beach goer. Um, so yeah, they really kind of, even though their image is supposed to be like borderline boy band,
Yeah,
they really shoot themselves in the foot with just their own personalities, basically. Um,
yeah, yeah. The cover I was thinking of was Beach Boys Today, which
yeah,
just take a look at that if you haven't.
yeah. Um, so I guess where I was going with that is it feels like either you have to visually represent your comedy, in a music video, like Weird Al does, or usually I feel like music works a bit better at being comedic when it's like self-deprecating or overly sarcastic or something that's like um like the a bit of darker form of comedy, that has maybe a bit more emotion to it. Um, and so I
Um,
think this song is perhaps one of the worst songs off the album that you could choose to make a video for, because that tone is going to be hard to capture without it looking like a home video.
yeah. Well, another part of it is that the humor in the song itself is a bit quite a bit more subtle than the video in that in the like the song itself doesn't have any like falling down the stair sound effects, which is what they have
The tone of the
visually
video,
represented.
yes. Yeah.
Um,
Um, and I think it would definitely be a long time before music videos could have this sort of subtlety to pull off the sort of subtlety that the humor of the song does. Um, so maybe Sloop John B would have been good as an MTV hit or something, but I think this one almost like the Animals music video in that it's sort of held back by the budget and the um, expectations of the era. Um, I guess that's not like the Animals. I was thinking the Animals is sort of held back by the performance. But both in either case, they're sort of held back um, by being from the time that they are from, if that makes sense.
yeah, they clearly. I mean, there have been plenty. Like if we just look at film from the 60s, that
Okay.
is many classics were made in the 60s. Like Lawrence of Arabia, that was I think 64 if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sometimes in the mid 60s. And so if the Beach Boys treated their video with as much care as David Lean did his masterpiece, but that might be asking a bit too
Yeah,
much.
yeah. I think maybe just a bit. That maybe they could go on set to like an actual pirate ship or something that someone's taking a trip on, and that would maybe match that level of effort. Um,
Yeah.
but
But
okay,
the fact, or I guess the point I was trying to make was that film grammar was developed
yes,
very to a very complex degree by this point. Uh, and music videos just chose not to adopt that.
that's that's fair. Here's I think the final angle that we can take on this before we get to our ratings. Um, this video, I think, focuses a lot on the personality, or at least I mean, it seems to be their genuine personality in a sense. Um, but maybe it's just the image that they're so used to playing. But in either sense, it seems to fit their characters or their public image very well. Do you think that the home video aspect is something that is sort of gone missing, something that's been lost that shouldn't have been, because it kind of gives us access to see the artist in a more down to earth light that isn't like this super staged, highly produced music video?
Um, no, I honestly would never watch a home video um, of someone else's who wasn't like a close friend of mine or something like that.
Even if it was like
Um,
set to the music that you like by artists that you like?
this, uh, Still no, for the same reason that I wouldn't watch a clip from reality television set to music that I like. Um,
But
and
hopefully these people are more likable than reality TV stars.
I just think it's the same kind of concept though, which is they don't want to script anything. They don't want to put effort into thinking about what they're gonna do.
Oh,
It's a
I
bit of
see.
ego, like, oh, I'm a genius. If you film me, it'll be good no matter what.
Yeah. Well, I think it was scripted what they were doing, but like what the Beach Boys were doing here. But it's not something that they planned out a long time in advance or anything. I think part of it is also just that I want to say that there's just so much, there's so many other avenues now to like learn about your favorite artists that you really don't need your music video to like be the route that you take to get to know them better, you know? Is that sort
Yeah.
of like there are more interviews now, there's more documentaries now. You can use your music video to show your music in a new light rather than just show the artists, the people behind them in a new light, you know?
Yeah. And I mean that's also what the just showing the home video does is you're trying to sell them the artist as the product that they should want rather than the art.
Mm,
And I think this is something that didn't negatively affect the Beach Boys, and that the artist that they tried to sell them was as though this was actually them was just completely incompatible with
yeah.
their appearance as people.
Well, yeah, and Mike Love and Brian Wilson probably did not like each other at this point, since this is Pet Sounds era. So, yeah, not entirely believable. So, I think I'm going to give this one a 2 because
Um,
there's really nothing interesting about it. Yeah, it's not catastrophic. Maybe we'll see if this ends up being one of the worst that we talk about. Maybe I'll relegate it to a 1 in the future. But right now, I don't mind having seen it. It's sort of it's got a bit of novelty to it, I guess, but it's going to be a negative for me still.
I will also give this one a two.
Okay.
Um, I I think this is a pretty solid example of what a two looks like. So I don't think it's close to just a one.
Okay.
Um, because it's not like this has ruined the song for me. And it's not like every time I hear the song, I will think of this and enjoy it less because of this. But there isn't really there isn't a reason to watch this unless you really want to see the Beach Boys jump into water repeatedly. Um,
Well, wearing full clothes, I might
oh
add.
yes, yes. Do
Don't
they
think
even take off their shoes? I don't.
no, I really don't understand what maybe I think that's part of the gag when when they're carrying the boat and they suddenly get submerged in the water. I think you're supposed to be led to not think that's going to happen because they have their clothes on.
They are not wearing their shoes. Their feet are bare. So also, if you want to see Beach Boys' feet, here's your option. Um,
Uh,
but
Music
yeah,
video views are about to double now that you've revealed that priceless information.
I sure hope not. But yeah, the would recommend listening to Pet Sounds,
Yeah.
not watching the video though.
See, maybe this needs to be a 1 for me since I have the excuse me the unique morbid interpretation of this song about someone who
Uh,
is cripplingly homesick, and then this video really clashes with it, with that interpretation. Um, so should I go down to 1? Hmm.
I I suspect we'll see worse music videos.
I'm
And
gonna yeah, I'm gonna stick with 2 just because the way that they sing "Took away all my grits" is so uh irritating to begin with, and clearly supposed to be like something that you laugh at, that already when I listen to the song, my interpretation of it faces opposition. So so really
Uh,
this music video doesn't really do much more. Okay.
all
Are we
right.
moving on to the band
I
that
think
actually invented everything, including the music video?
I think we can move on to uh the most celebrated pop music band ever.
Okay, and just shed some new light on it that probably people have never
Yeah.
heard before. Okay. I'll give my summary, and then you can just jump in with whatever you think is the most important thing. So this
All
video
right.
depicts a normal that was
Go
very
ahead.
impassioned. Yes, I will do that. This video depicts a normal day for a British person in the 60s. The day begins with them all taking acid, and while under its influence, they ransack a secondhand clothing store. Eventually, they decide to play music on a heath, but instead tie their instrument strings to a tree, do more drugs, and then walk home with a dog that seems familiar, but none of them recognize as their own.
Yeah.
Take it away,
And
Giovanni.
this song that we have watched the music video for is Strawberry Fields Forever
Yeah,
by the Beatles.
yeah,
Um it is the first thing to say is they tried something.
they did.
Unlike the last two, they did try something, and they did try to be art in the sense that doing drugs is art, um, which is a dubious sense,
A
but
limited
it's
sense, yeah, yeah.
um, so this music video is actually celebrated. If Wikipedia is anything to go by, anyways, and
Yeah.
Wikipedia, you've probably this has been noticed, but the all of the articles about the Beatles on Wikipedia are about 3 times more in depth than any other band.
Yeah, yeah, I think
Uh,
the number of words that exist on Wikipedia, about probably 20% has to be on Beatles pages.
um, but yes, this has this has uh, borrowed film grammar in a way, in that it does have they play footage in reverse. They have dissolves and and they play the film negative at one point.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
zoom in and out. There's
Zoom in.
close-ups.
Yeah,
There's a lot of things that are associated with directing, but I would say there's very little direction to the
okay.
whole.
Okay,
Um,
see, maybe I am more favorable to it than that. Um, so I think I'll start by saying the video doesn't start in a particularly promising way, really. Um, in that it starts with they're dressed a bit more goofily than the animals. They're goofing about by a tree in a field, but that sort of just seems like the British equivalent of goofing in your like suburban house's pool, really. So it's not doesn't seem to really jump out compared to the Beach Boys. Um, and then they
uh,
end up, yeah,
the thing at the beginning that gets me is at about 20 seconds into the video,
hmm
they when they run towards the camera,
hmm
Ringo keeps his arms so close to his side, so stiff, and
yes.
he's holding a cigarette. He looks like he could be competing in the Monty Python sketch Upper Class Twit of the Year.
Okay. So,
And so this really is too goofy for me
uh,
already.
okay, that's still during like the very first chorus, right? That the song starts on, I think.
Yes.
Because I was going to say, really, I don't think it puts itself ahead of any of the other videos until the end of the first chorus where they say "Strawberry Fields Forever," and there's a dissolve into a couple of other shots. Um, and that's where I think I actually got chills at that point because I was like, oh, suddenly someone's decided, let's edit the video so that it actually synergizes with the music, which seems
Um,
simple, but you know,
yeah,
uh,
so I suppose I should be grateful to the Beatles for deciding that they should have someone edit their video.
yes.
Um,
Again, in true
I
Beatles fashion, what they invented is probably just something that they let someone else do, like all of their production decisions and whoever edited this. But whatever.
um, I I just wish that the Beatles, after letting someone edit it, they then got someone who is not high to check it. Um,
Really,
because because this has a similar amount of fooling around to the last video, but it is fooling around with dissolves. Um, both in that the editor fooled around with dissolves and that there's dissolves over the fooling around in the video. Um,
okay.
but yes, and the other thing I have to say is the this song is rather melancholy. Um,
Yes.
and I don't think this video is. Uh, this 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 video is very whimsical, and the song has its whimsical moments to it, but that it is only to bolster the melancholy aspect of it.
Well,
And
yeah. Go
in
ahead.
the
Sorry.
video, they have their whimsical moments of them, playing footage in reverse to jump up a tree and
Hmm.
pour paint over a piano.
Hmm.
And they attempt for a melancholy aspect by having the each of the four Beatles in turn stare ponderously into the camera. And
Yeah.
of the four of them, George and John each look mad, like slightly angry. And Ringo looks a little dopey, not to
Well,
go after him too much.
Ringo always looks dopey. Yeah. So that's
And and then Paul he seems like he's having a better time than the rest of
yeah.
them in their close up.
Let's be honest. Paul always looks like he's having a better time than the rest of them. So that's not
Well,
too surprising.
I'm not sure. At the end when they pour paint over the piano, George, he's chuckling to himself.
That's a theme that we're running with here. Really, is lead guitarists who just cannot keep it together. I think it's they feel the urge to sing or something and have attention on them, so they just start having a good time. But okay, I wanna push back slightly on the melancholy aspect because just to go with the song, I think the song sort of progresses in stages. So verse one goes, "Living is easy with eyes closed, misunderstanding all you see. It's getting hard to be someone, but it all works out. It doesn't matter much to me." So I think that's a very interesting verse. Not to turn this into a lyrical analysis podcast, but what I get from this is sort of the struggle to make your mark on the world, I guess. To be someone, despite the sort of difficulty of not knowing what's going on, or that sort of thing. I think this song is about John Lennon's childhood, so I think that sort of makes
Yeah,
sense, right?
yeah,
And then that's the goofy part of the music video. We're still in that. And then I think when we get to verse 2, which goes, "No one I think is in my tree. I mean, it must be high or low. That is, you can't know. That is, you can't, tune in, but it's all right. That is, I think it's not too bad." So this is sort of, I think, like the inward turn, talking about his own frame of mind and maybe the inability to sort of communicate what's going on inside of him, or for other people to know, um, which is, I think, a darker tone. and I think it becomes night in the music video at that time. So I think that sort of fits. Um, just deciding if I should continue. Yeah, there's only one more verse. So third verse is always know, sometimes think it's me, but I know when it's a dream. I think I know, I mean, yes, but it's all wrong. That is, I think I disagree. So I think that's when the confusion s- sits in on the young person who is now in disagreement with the world and also disagreement with his own sort of not to get to the wall before we get to Pink Floyd, but his own the disconnect between his own internal jumbled world and other people's impression of him, you know. So
Yeah.
and then that's the final stage of the video where they start where they've strung up the instrument to the tree. It's all jumbled up, and they start pouring paint and kind of desecrating it. Um, and I think that is something that, well, the Animals music video certainly understood that you should probably have a climax to your video as the song climaxes. I think this understands the theme of the song in a bit better way, in that as the music video progresses and gets darker and more tangled, the song does too.
Um, I can, yeah, I can see that. But I should tell you that the the video gets dark in the middle of their first chorus.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, you just let me go on that entire like first year English lit rant without I'm gonna also call you out on that. I have to disagree. I mean I think that is I disagree. um
Yeah, it's at like a minute and 8 seconds.
a minute and 8 seconds. That's uh yes. No, that's they've already sung the first verse at that point. So they're getting into the second verse, which is the darker one.
Yeah. Okay.
So then they that's the core the this that's the second time they go through the chorus because the song starts with the chorus then goes to verse.
Ah, right, right,
So this is
yes.
the second chorus, and then they're going into the second verse after that, which is like the inward turn um about being in your own head and that sort of thing. Um
Um, Another potential problem with your
yeah,
theory is that in the number of close-ups to their faces that occur throughout the video,
yes.
some of them are in daylight.
Yeah, that's true. That I
Uh,
can it's predominantly darker though is what I will stick with.
yeah. Okay.
So it goes from daylight to dark to all jumbled up in film negativity and that sort of thing. So I think it seems, I mean, it's difficult because the song is already filtered through definitely some LSD. Um, I said acid earlier. I should have said LSD. Um, so the lyrical clarity is maybe not the best. Not that that's
So,
something that everything needs, but um,
yeah.
working with an interpretation of the lyrics, I think you get to something that seems to synergize with the video.
Okay. I can see that then. Um, yeah, I suppose, I mean, I guess my rebuttal is this, which is that when the theme of the lyrics is about confusion.
Hmm.
Having a confused person edit it might unintentionally produce that effect. Um,
Yeah.
so so I I suppose it is possible that the confusion increasing in the video as it goes along corresponds to the confusion increasing in the song. It's just um not hugely impressive to me. I mean, it's probably a step up over the past two videos or
Yeah. I mean, I think in the first video, in the animals. So just to give a little bit of a background, while we're discussing the Beatles, the advent of the music video was basically that the Beatles wanted to stop touring. So instead of going on to shows like Top of the Pops, where you would normally mime your song, uh, basically you would mime your song live. They would play it over the stereo system, and then you would mime along. Instead, what they would do is they would send videos of them miming so that the TV producers, rather than cutting to them performing it live, they could just show this video. Um, and then as that promotional video got more and more advanced, artistically speaking, it became closer and closer to what we would normally call a music video. So just to wrap up this tangent, I think like the animals, that video kind of that introduced the element of blocking. They're like, great, we can now block music videos in intelligent ways. Beach Boys sort of added a like the non-performance element. Like we don't need to just perform our video; we can just shoot other things. And then now we've unlocked basically editing with with that
yeah, we
progression.
have unlocked editing.
Yeah, I wanted. I'll be honest. I wanted to use unlock from the beginning there, but that sounded a little too gamer, so I held it back for the end.
Yeah. Um
But sorry, I feel like I've been talking too much about this video. What's lay down your criticism now?
my criticism, I suppose I mean, I've said my piece about the video, which is it is quite jumbled, and
Yeah,
it seems like they're like, "All right, guys, fool around in front of the camera. We'll edit it into something wonderful."
right.
And they did that. Maybe it wasn't wonderful what they edited it into, but
Yeah.
it was at least decent, I guess. The thing that this is something more to do with the song than the video itself.
Hmm.
And, related to the lyrics, I think this is actually, uh the song is good proof that song lyrics are not literature, um, because when you just read the lyrics, they seem to have absolutely no rhythm to them, especially the ones towards the end.
Yes.
Um, but when they sing them, the act of singing is what gives them the cadence and rhythm.
Yeah.
Whereas
I yeah.
with actual poetry, when you read the poetry, the actual composition of how it is written down on the page is what gives it
Hmm.
its rhythm, whether it's metered or however it's
Yeah.
composed.
And I could add to that that the instrumentation itself, I think, definitely adds to the tone. Whereas the tone can be sort of ambiguous when you read it, I think. Um, the in the second verse when the strings come in, the very dark, I think probably cello, um, and stand-up bass, when or double bass rather, same thing. When those come in, suddenly it seems to me at least undisputable that the second verse is darker than the first. But on the page, it doesn't really seem that way.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So, and I guess the video can just be another sort of source of that, um, of ways of making the lyrics change meaning that is not evident from when it's just written down. So I think I've said my piece. You want to get to the rating now?
Sure.
Okay.
Um,
You go first.
all right. I guess I mean you've convinced me that this was better than my initial impressions, but I'd still only give this a neutral rating, 3.
Okay.
Um, I think I'd enjoy listening to the song on its own more than watching it with the video, but it's not like the video doesn't hugely take away from it.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, I mean, good on them for trying to edit it in a new way and well succeeding in doing it in a new way. Um, and so I'm glad that this allowed the evolution of the art form of music videos beyond
Yeah.
people fooling around in a pool. But
Yeah.
but it is kind of dated with 60s tackiness that the song is not.
Yeah. I said they ransacked a secondhand clothing store, but I honestly can't tell. Maybe that was like high fashion for the 60s. Everyone just looked like they've came out of a Lewis Carroll poem or something. Um, okay, see, up until you gave your reasoning behind why you're giving it a 3, I was going to pull a big twist and also say that it's a 3 because for the most part, I was just saying that like it just does the thing that most videos do now, which is like follow the progression in some way. Have visual symbolism, like the the strings of the piano getting tangled up in the tree, which is definitely pretty cutting edge, but it's at the time. But really, that's just something that most good videos do now. Um, and then I was thinking that I feel like I did not appreciate this song as much until I really watched the video, and it felt a lot darker than when I just normally listen to it. Where usually you get sort of hung up on the, kind of uh, jolly, dreamy way they say "Strawberry Fields Forever," and you're like, okay, it's a drug song. I sort of understand that. But with the kind of dramatic editing, with the zooms and that sort of stuff, that really underscore like the darker elements, like the heavy strings, um, and the confusion. I feel like that made me appreciate the music a bit more. And so, and I saw it more as this dark kind of, yes, druggy, but also introspective song. Whereas before I just really just focused on it's basically a Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds type song. Now I see it as something darker. So I think I'm going to go with 4 because of that.
Okay.
So, um, yeah, 4 is going to be my decision. So, any parting comments for Strawberry Fields Forever for you?
Um, no. I think I've run out of things to say.
Okay, that means that I think, uh, recorded this episode for long enough. And
I
now I'm going to
I
move. Yeah.
I believe we have
Okay,
then.
fantastic. I'm now going to move into the outro section formally, um, which I have not written anything for. So let me say that going forward, I think the way Giovanni and I are planning on doing this is we're going to look at all the albums that we've listened to, and we're going to watch the music videos from those albums in chronological order. And then interspersed with that, we're going to cover music videos that are from albums that we haven't listened to, but we want to include because they are interesting for one reason or another. and we're not going to do that chronologically. So that's going to be the plan going forward. And also, we are not going to do, at least unless eventually we run out of music videos. That's a fantastic thing about this, just to pat ourselves on the back here, is that we have a lot of material to go through. But should we eventually run out of music videos, we could do the movies that accompany whole albums, like A Hard Day's Night by the Beatles, which I despise, but maybe Rattle and Hum by U2, which I like, and Giovanni will despise. And that is the plan going forward for the most part. And throwing some that's professional podcasting for you right there. I think I'm going to just say to Giovanni, stop recording. Is that how we do the exit? Stop recording now?
I suppose we can stop recording. And
Okay.
conveniently, there's someone knocking on my door. So,
on your studio door, you mean, right?
yes,
Yeah.
I will cut this bit
That's
out.
probably the producer then.